and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid for Game Week 38. And this could be the last ever episode of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid because I'm not sure if I'm going to bring it back for next season or not. If I do, there is going to be some significant changes and I am open to suggestions of what those changes might be. But yeah, could be the last ever episode, guys. So if you did enjoy this season of series, I guess leave a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started. So buys are players you probably don't have but should consider removing, sells are players you probably have but should consider removing, keeps are players you might be thinking about removing but I think you should potentially keep them, and avoids are players that are pretty hyped up right now but I think they are potential traps, potential avoids. Guys, that might be the last time I ever say that in that very, very fast rap-esque way. Guys, let's get started with some buys. So in the defensive positions, I'm going to put Raya in the buy category, and if I'm totally honest, I don't know if this is really a week to be buying defensive assets because typically in Game Week 38, we see a lot of goals. It's often the highest scoring single game week of the season with loads of goals going in everywhere, and therefore it's going to be difficult to pick out a team that is actually likely to keep a clean sheet. However, if you are going to pick a team, it's probably going to be Arsenal. Now, I'm not sure if I would recommend spending a transfer on a Raya if you have other issues in your team, but if you do just desperately need a new goalkeeper this game week, a safe and secure 6 points from Raya sounds pretty good to me. And Guardiola is definitely the defender to buy because not only is he a defender in FPL, but he's an attacker in real life, playing really as a left winger these days. Super advanced, super attacking, and that's been reflected in his recent attacking returns. Now, yes, he has been overperforming by quite some considerable distance. 4 goals with 1.55 XG, but, you know, that's still pretty decent for a defender, these underlying numbers, despite the fact he has been overperforming. So don't expect a brace from him every game week, but against this super weak West Ham defence and a game at home for a Man City defence that seems to be improving, being more solid these days, I do think that there is still potential for decent score lines. Really, outside of Arsenal and Man City, I don't really expect too many clean sheets from any other team in the Premier League this game week. Now, looking at midfielders, I think Havertz could be a really nice option this week. Obviously, Arsenal need to win to keep their hopes alive, and Everton at home, even though it's not the easiest fixture from a defensive point of view, it is a home game, and it is in Game Week 38. Everton, a team with not much to play for. I don't think Arsenal are necessarily going to score 4 or 5 goals in this game, but if they do manage to score a couple of goals, Kai Havertz will more than likely be involved. Very, very good underlying numbers here. He's kind of averaging well over an attacking return every other game in those underlying numbers, and in terms of those actual numbers, he's pretty much returning once every single game week, pretty consistently as well, which is really, really good to see. Plenty of shots, plenty of key passes, taking multiple of each every single game, and therefore he is going to be a real contender for a high-scoring midfielder in Game Week 38. So Kai Havertz, if you fancy an Arsenal player, bringing them back into your team after the double game week that Arsenal didn't have, well, I think Havertz could be your guy. And Mateta, how about Crystal Palace attack for a bit of a differential here? Because I'm not sure too many people will be going for Crystal Palace attackers, as Aston Villa are considered a pretty good team. However, what we've seen from Villa recently is they are really weak defensively and conceding a lot of goals. They're not in the greatest of form at the moment, and particularly if other results go their way, you know, if Man City even get a draw from Spurs this evening, Aston Villa are going to have quite literally nothing to play for in the final game week of the season. They will not be able to move up or down in the table, and therefore this will be a huge opportunity for a really in-form Crystal Palace team that just seems to keep going and going and going. Mateta has been in great form himself, scoring 6 goals and 1 assist in the last 6 games for him, and yeah, taking plenty of shots as well in very dangerous areas in particular. You know, he's getting high XG chances, and with the creativity of Elise and Eze in behind him, he's really, really thriving in that position at the moment. So I think Mateta can grab more attacking returns in this favourable fixture against Aston Villa that not a lot of people will see coming, and could surprise a few people with some decent returns. Differential, cheap, with high numbers. I think this is a great pick going into the final game week of the season. Neto is your obvious goalkeeper sell this week because he's not really playing. In fact, we don't even know for sure if he will start ever again for Bournemouth. It seems to be the case at the moment. Chelsea away is a pretty poor fixture as well from a defensive point of view, and I think the Bournemouth defence in general are likely to concede multiple goals in this game week. And although typically a goalkeeper transfer is not something that you have to do this game week, if you do have, you know, no playing goalkeepers, if you've got a Neto or a Dubravka, for example, and you're worried about the game time of those players, then maybe just selling Neto could be the solution to that. If you've got a Kelleher Walker, if you've got a Dubravka, these are other kind of goalkeepers that you might want to sell because, you know, it's unlikely that they'll get game time in Game Week 38, and you at least want to get something from Game Week 38 from your goalkeepers. And I'd also look to sell the central defenders from Crystal Palace. Not necessarily the wing backs, you know, the likes of Munoz and Mitchell are very, very attacking, and they will be looking to get attacking returns against Aston Villa. I do, however, still expect Aston Villa to score against Crystal Palace, and therefore a player like Anderson, who is only really good from those set pieces, is unlikely to get attacking returns from open play at least. And Aston Villa, they're not exactly the weakest team defending those set pieces either. So in general, I would be looking to sell the likes of Anderson. But again, Munoz, Mitchell, I'd be far more keen to keep them because of the attacking threat that those players possess against a pretty weak Aston Villa defence. Now, it would be very easy to put Bruno Fernandes in the sell category for our midfielders because he is injured. We're not actually sure if he's even going to be available for Game Week 38 or not. It's looking a little unlikely at the moment. So if you do have an injured Fernandes, then he would probably be the first player I would sell in the midfield position. But Gordon is also a pretty good candidate for a sell as well. Brentford away. Brentford have been a team recently, have actually been doing pretty well defensively, not conceding too many goals. It's an away fixture. We know Anthony Gordon doesn't exactly thrive in those away fixtures either. Even though the underlying numbers are, you know, they're pretty good for Gordon, they're not quite at that elite level that we perhaps see from some other players in the Premier League at the moment. So therefore, I think Gordon, overperforming with his assists at least recently, I think he can probably be sold or maybe benched if you don't want to sell him. Not really one of the top picks for Game Week 38. And Solanke, another player, probably not going to be one of the better picks for this game week either. Bournemouth not really scoring too many goals at the moment. Solanke, yes, he scored in Game Week 37, but a couple of blanks before that as well, which means that away against Chelsea, I'm not massively confident that I'd want to be going into this game week with him. So if you'd have held on to Solanke for a little bit of time here, an easy move to someone like Mateta could be very, very nice indeed to finish off the season with a bang. Now, Onana is always a controversial figure when talking about football, but in terms of the Manchester United goalkeeper, what he brings to our FPL teams is save points. And he does it very, very consistently. Another 5 saves against Arsenal at the weekend, so more save points for him, and we are seeing, you know, at least okay returns from him. Now, like I say, I don't really expect anyone to keep a clean sheet out of Arsenal and Man City. I'd be surprised if there was more than one other clean sheet outside of those two teams. And are we depending on Manchester United to be that other team? Well, potentially. And the reason is Brighton are just a horrible attack at the moment. They are just not creating chances. They're not, you know, they're really not getting enough goals. They're kind of shooting from weak positions. It's not looking good in the Brighton attack at the moment. And therefore, if anyone is going to keep a clean sheet against anyone, Brighton is one of the better candidates of a fixture where you can keep a clean sheet in at the moment in a game week where no one really is expected to. So Onana, if he does continue to get lots of saves and can maybe fluke a clean sheet, it's unlikely, but it is possible. Onana's actually one of the goalkeepers with a much higher ceiling. You know, a player like Raya, he's kind of capped at 6 points. Onana, he is a player who can definitely get more like 9 or 10 points just through making those saves, getting bonus points as well, because Manchester United don't seem to be exactly free scoring themselves either at the moment as well. So, yeah, I think definitely if you're thinking of swapping Onana for another goalkeeper, it's probably not going to be worth it. Raya, yes, probably going to get you a 6-pointer. Edison, maybe a 6-pointer for him as well. Onana, we're looking really at a 3-pointer minimum when you look at probably conceding 1 goal, getting a save point there as well, but there is potential for more. But, you know, for a 3-point difference, it doesn't really seem worth making a transfer to sell Onana, so I would be looking to keep him. If you have Petrovic as well, though, I would consider playing Petrovic ahead of Onana because, like I said, Bournemouth not exactly too hot in attack at the moment. And Kyle Walker is another defender I probably wouldn't swap out. I'm sure a lot of people looking to maybe move Kyle Walker over to a Guardiola at the moment. Well, I'm not really sure that is worth a transfer either. Yes, Guardiola has been getting a lot of attacking returns recently, and if you've got a bad defender in your team that you want to swap out for him, it's probably definitely worthwhile. But Kyle Walker, like I say, Man City, one of the better chances of a clean sheet. Walker seems to do pretty well on bonus points, so if neither Walker or Guardiola, neither of them getting attacking returns, well, Walker's probably going to be the guy on bonus points. So you would be betting against Guardiola getting attacking returns, but I don't think it's super unlikely that he, you know, just gets a plain old Mr. Clean Sheet in Game Week 38. So I don't think it's worth the transfer. I would try and spend those transfers higher up your pitch unless you just do have a terrible defender in your team right now. Walker is not a terrible defender. Latest quotes from Mikel Arteta on Saka say that he's actually going to be fine for game week 38. It's a decent amount of time between Arsenal's two fixtures, between 37 and 38. So I think Saka will be absolutely fine to play in that final day of the season, particularly as it is a very important game for Arsenal against Everton at home. And Saka, his underlying numbers really are phenomenal. 2.88 XG, 1.58 XA over the past 5 game weeks. That is really, really nice numbers there. These are kind of the top level numbers that we like to see. Taking an insane amount of shots, creating a lot. You know, these numbers are actually better than the likes of Kai Havertz as well. So I do think Saka is always going to have huge potential in any given game week. On penalties as well, which is always useful. And as long as Arteta is telling the truth that Saka is absolutely fine, then I actually think, despite the fact he is one of the most sold players so far going into game week 38, he actually could be one of the best players to have in game week 38. A real top level midfielder and one of the top scoring FPL assets of the season. I wouldn't want to lose him if I had him already. And if you don't have him, I would even consider buying him as well. Isak would be another player I'd be looking to keep. And I know people are going to sell him, particularly as he is rumoured to be ill for the game against Manchester United, which is going to take place very, very soon after watching this video. So I just want to, guys, make you aware that yes, if he misses Man United, it is due to illness. He is expected back against Brentford, and although I do think Brentford are a pretty strong defence at the moment, I think Isak has been in just such great form at the moment on penalties as well, that there's actually a very good chance that he gets something out of this game. You know, 1 goal is going to be enough to guarantee Isak, 8 or 9 points in a game week, which is very, very nice. And I think we take that rather than making a transfer to someone else. So I don't think it's worth Isak to Mateta unless you desperately need to free up the money. That is the only way I would sell Isak, is if you desperately need the cash, because I actually think he's a pretty good player to play in game week 38 against Brentford. Okay, a double whammy for Everton in the avoid section. A lot of people looking to buy Pickford and Branthwaite this game week because Everton have been keeping so many clean sheets recently, doing really, really well defensively. But away against Arsenal, I just can't see that run of good defensive form continuing, if I'm totally honest. It's a really, really difficult game for them, and I don't expect Pickford or Branthwaite to pick up any points in game week 38, really. Even if you're expecting an attacking return from Branthwaite, these underlying numbers don't suggest it's going to happen very often. So avoid Pickford, avoid Branthwaite. I think that's pretty obvious, and I don't think too many of you guys will disagree with me on that one. Arsenal are probably going to score, aren't they? But one man who might not score in that game is Martin Ødegaard. A lot of people looking to bring him in this week, and I think this is a pretty strange transfer at the moment, because why would you go for Ødegaard when you could go for the likes of Saka and Havertz, who are putting up such better numbers, are actually returning more as well, doing better on bonus points. The likes of Saka has penalties as well. Havertz playing as a central striker. That doesn't really seem to be a good reason to go for Ødegaard, and yet he is one of the most popular transfers in this game week. A lot of people looking to replace Saka, which, like I say, don't really agree with that one. People selling Bruno Fernandes as well. Maybe just Ødegaard kind of fits the bill price-wise, but I just don't think it's worth it. I think there's better opportunities elsewhere, and in the Arsenal midfield, and in certain other midfields as well. Crystal Palace could make some really nice differentials this week, and how about Man City midfielders? Foden, De Bruyne could do pretty well this game week as well. So overall, would not be looking to buy Ødegaard this game week at all. And Ollie Watkins completes our buy, sell, keep, avoid list for today. An 8.9 million attacker playing a very, very difficult game against Crystal Palace away. Now, particularly if the league is wrapped up as 4th place for Aston Villa by game week 38, I don't think Watkins is going to be a very good pick. I think there is a good chance that he is rested or rotated, to give some other players a chance. John Duran, for example, well worth a start in game week 38, given his recent good form. And I think Crystal Palace are just a really tough game at the moment. So if Aston Villa have nothing to play for, Crystal Palace are really in good form. Aston Villa are in very bad form, as we've kind of seen a little bit recently, and Watkins may be looking to keep fit ahead of the Euros, trying to make that Euros squad and not pick up an injury. Well, in that case, is Watkins really going to be able to put up that much damage? Watkins has had a fabulous season, particularly in FPL terms. He's been a fantastic asset all season, but his underlying numbers suggest that, he's not one of the better picks right now. It's a very, very difficult fixture, and the specific circumstances going into game week 38 could mean that Watkins and other Aston Villa players are just not the players to go for at all. So Watkins completes the avoid section. So in summary, guys, I think we would be waiting a little while longer before making transfers for Game Week 38 because there are still a few things that can change in terms of which teams have things to play for, who doesn't, which teams are in the best form, who needs what from what game, and that's going to impact various things. We're also going to have players chasing golden boots or, you know, maybe trying to get the most assists or clean sheets in a season. Well, I think Ray has probably wrapped that one up, but still, it's very, very important that we do wait for extra information before rushing our moves. So I'm not going to be making early transfers myself this game week. I don't recommend you guys do either. See what happens over the next couple of days, and we can make some judgments based on that. The big fixture to keep an eye on is Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. In my opinion, that is going to be potentially the biggest opportunity depending on other results. And Arsenal and Man City players are going to be huge going into Game Week 38 with so much to play for still. And there we have it, guys. 3 years of Buy, Sell, Keep, Avoid potentially coming to an end, but we'll see if we can maybe revive this series for next season in a slightly different way. I think it's just run its course in the current format, and I think we can potentially improve it or just replace it with something even better if we can come up with something. But guys, if you have been enjoying this season series, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. We'll be back tomorrow for yet another video. I will give you no clues as to what it will be about, but until then, I will see you later. Mates. Bye-bye.